Welcome to Nick on Knicks, where your boy N.I.C breaks down the most recent Knick game, and what a game it was. The Knicks win 97-92, take a 3-1 game lead in this first round Eastern Conference series against Joel Embiid and the 76ers. What a win by the Knicks today. Matinee game, 1 o'clock Eastern. They come in, they have a tough first quarter. They're down by 10. Then they win every single quarter afterwards and make gritty defensive plays, grab rebounds, get buckets when they need them, and pull it out down the stretch. What a game. Oh man, I mean, I'm still buzzing. I didn't plan on starting this podcast until next season, but I'm so hyped that I said, you know what, we got to go ahead and pull the trigger, and we got to get it in. I hope that you guys stick with me and look for me as the guy to listen to after the Knick games, maybe the next morning. You'll be able to hear me. We're gonna keep it short, not crazy long. Just talk about what we saw, how we feel, and hit that like, hit that subscribe. And we got to start off with Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, our fearless leader. Becky Hammond, where you at? Candace Parker, where you at? I want to hear all these. He's not a 1A. I want to hear all these people that were chirping after games 1 and 2, where, hey, give Philly credit. They were playing very, very good defense. They were throwing different things at him, but some of it was just him not being the guy we know he can be. And in these last 2 games, we've seen exactly that. Today was an absolute masterclass. 47 points, 10 assists, what some people are calling the greatest single game performance in Knicks playoff history. Now, I think Walt Clyde Frazier, game 7, and one, I don't know if it was the 69 or the 72. I think it was the 69. He has crazy numbers in that game. So I think he might have something to say about that. But Brunson just absolutely getting it done, getting wherever he wants on the floor, making impossible shots, getting and ones, finding the right teammate. I mean, he was fantastic. He scored or assisted on 70 of the Knicks' 97 points. I mean, what else can you say about this guy? He's hitting clutch threes. He's getting in there, 1 foot, putting it up, floater in Embiid's face with guys draped all over him, playing through contact. Probably should have even gotten to the line a few more times, other than the 9 of 11 that he did shoot. But wow, Jalen Brunson, just an absolute virtuoso performance. Anybody who thinks that he's not a true MVP candidate or he's not a 1A or any of this other nonsense, that's garbage. Put it away. It is very clear that this guy can take over any game at any time, and he's stepping up now in the playoffs, just cementing the fact that he is the leader of the squad. Really wish we had Julius out there as well. And Julius, whoever's 1A, I'm not really too much into that conversation, but it's just clear. Jalen Brunson, he is the leader of the Knicks for the foreseeable future. He seemed like he tweaked a little bit of a knee at the end of the third quarter. I was very, very, very nervous, man. Yo, I saw that and I was like, come on, man, especially on a nonsense like just heave play at the end of the quarter. If this guy ends up being out because of that, it just, my heart was, and then when they come back, they're like, yeah, Jalen Brunson went back to the locker room. I'm like, oh, no. But, obviously he ends up coming back in. He looked a little bit stiff when he first came back in. But overall, within a few seconds, I think he was going in and getting either a layup and one, and just you were like, okay, he's all right. And if he's okay, then we always have a chance in any game. And we got some big performances from guys outside of Jalen. First and foremost, OG Anunoby, 16 points, 14 big, strong rebounds. And you could tell that OG had a mindset today of attack and get into the paint. He was making grown man moves. He was being very, very patient, I thought. And, not just immediately dribbling. And once he dribbles in traffic, now everybody is stripping at it. He never seems to come away with anything good off of that. It almost always ends up in a turnover. Today, he was slowing down, getting guys on his back, being very decisive, and going up strong and challenging Embiid at the rim, which is something I've been screaming at the entire team that they need to do. They have to do. We got to challenge this guy more at the rim. He's gimpy. He's tired. Let's go ahead. Make this guy block your shot. And OG was doing that today. He was going straight at him. He was securing rebounds with force. When he secures a rebound, he brings it down, he snatches it away, he looks around, he makes sure nobody's going to come up behind him and try to strip it, and he secures the ball, secures the possession, and then we move up the floor. I thought OG was fantastic today. I loved how Tibbs was going and trying to feature him early. I thought that getting him going was super important. And then the defense on Embiid in the fourth. I Heart goes out with the 5 fouls. We'll talk about him a little bit more later. But then OG is forced to check Embiid for most of the fourth quarter, and Embiid disappeared. He disappeared. OG, it seems like even when it comes to Embiid, might be our best defender. Now, as I was talking to the big guy earlier, I was talking to my pops, and I was saying, maybe OG is the best defender. He made a good point. He said, I don't know if you put him on them for too long. Now he's picking up fouls, and that there's something to that for sure. I do think, though, in big moments, we might need to deploy OG on this guy Embiid. And when I say moments, hopefully there's only going to be one more game with key moments in it, because we're going to go ahead and get this gentleman's sweep on Tuesday at the Garden. I said before the season, before the series started, I said Knicks in 5. They got a chance to make me a profit. And, I definitely think that Philly's going to be a little bit demoralized, especially with not only the way they lost that game, but the way that they just got outworked in that game, and also their lack of home court advantage. And Embiid had something to say about that. We'll get into that later. But yeah, man, OG, I just loved his game. I love the way he played today. So decisive, so strong with the ball. Hitting that little midi jump shot. I just, please more. Give me more, OG. Give me more. And Josh Hart. Josh Hart only had 4 points, but he had 17 massive rebounds. He had 5 assists and 3. What's another word? 3 gargantuan blocks. The blocks. Some of the plays that he was making, even after picking up his 5th foul with about 6 or 7 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, he's able to keep it together and continue to play huge defense. He was starting to attack Embiid, even though I thought that, there's a couple times where I saw him get into the paint and have times where he could either pull up for a little short shot or just go all the way to the rim, and he didn't. And that was more so at the beginning of the game. I was screaming at him to be more aggressive. He seemed to start to become a little bit more aggressive as the game went on, but obviously only 4 points. They are not letting him shoot wide open threes as much anymore. They're doing a good job of mixing up when they show all the way and when they show halfway. And it seemed like it was confusing him a little bit. He wasn't able to just be as decisive on offense as he typically is, but he did still find a way to get his teammates involved. Like I said, with those 5 assists and, 17 rebounds. This guy continues to amaze on the glass. He is the heart and soul of this team, pun intended. He is Starks reincarnate. He is the love child of Starks and Oakley, whatever you want to call him, however you want to phrase it. Josh Hart has been amazing for this team this entire playoffs thus far, this entire season, and really the entire team has changed since he came over last year from Portland at the trade deadline. Got to make those free throws late. Josh. All right, Josh. Gotta make those 2 free throws under a minute. Close game, going to the line, breaking 2. That is not going to work. You're lucky that we end up pulling out the dub with that, and hopefully it's one of those things you can shake it off right now. It is what it is, but we just don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. The other Villanova boy, Dante DiVincenzo, the big Ragu, only had 8 points. Ragu, like all of the Villanova players, even when he's not scoring, there's still ways that he's going to find a way to impact the game. Didn't really fill up the box score. I did think that those 2 threes that he hit in the third quarter were huge. Just in the time, what was going on? We needed something. He comes out, he hits a couple threes. We shot terrible from behind the arc in the first half, and we got it going in the second half. And there was one point where it was just like, yo, man, if we don't start hitting some threes, I just don't. You start to look at it, it's just like you cannot win an NBA game without hitting a certain amount of 3-pointers. It's just It's just really, really hard to do. And we make up for it sometimes with our work on the offensive glass. And, we make up for it with our ability to get to the line and to be efficient. But you got to start getting some of those to fall. Some of those started to fall in the second half. And I thought that was huge for the Knicks and their ability to be able to pull out this game. Hartenstein, only 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 turnovers. I think this was probably the toughest game of the series for him thus far. The floater just wasn't automatic. That little floater wasn't automatic like it typically is. He went to the line, he missed two. When he missed, I don't expect it to be a great one, but give me one. Come on, guy. And then in the third quarter, it was like the Embiid dribbling, him putting his hands on Embiid going up through his hands. It was like it was on a loop. And all of a sudden, you look up at halftime, he had 0 fouls. And now in the third quarter, with a few minutes left, he's got 5. And Embiid is just parading to the line and killing us from the free throw line when really we were stopping pretty much everything else. So that was a tough stretch and a tough quarter for Hartenstein. He seemed extremely frustrated. Josh Hart was trying to explain to him, like, yo, when this guy starts dribbling, you got to put your hands back like this. If you got your hands like this, he's going to get a foul called on you every single time. The refs, they treat Joel Embiid like he's 1998 Michael Jordan. That guy gets every single call. He's the biggest guy on the court. But at the very end of the game, there was a play where they needed a basket. He got in between, didn't really know what to do, goes to the rim, and Precious Achiuwa is able to affect the shot and block the shot. And they didn't give the weak foul call right there. I was so thankful. Overall, the officials got a lot of flack during this game. There was definitely some calls that went against the Knicks that I didn't exactly agree with, but I thought today was probably one of the more even games that they called across the board. I do think that Embiid, when he stepped on Josh Hart, it's intentional. I'm going to go ahead and say it's intentional, because the thing is that if it's close with this guy, I'm always going to lean to the fact that it was intentionally. He did mean to do that, because we know that's how he gets down. I thought that the that second step was kind of unnecessary. Then he immediately reaches for him or whatever, and luckily, no one got badly hurt. But anytime Embiid does anything that's borderline, I'm going to go on the side of the border that says that he was being a dirty piece of shit, because that's what he's shown himself to be. And then Hartenstein, the one thing with him is typically his ability to play on the high post and make some of those backdoor passes. And that was missing today. It seemed like maybe they made some adjustments. I'll have to dig into the tape a little bit more on that. The 3 turnovers, though, was very uncharacteristic. Sometimes with the pass, just a little bit too ambitious. And overall, I just felt like, he just had a tough night. But the great thing about this team is that when he has a tough night, my Precious Achiuwa can come in and he can get precious minutes with iHeart in foul trouble and Mitch not available. And he has maybe the greatest 1-point game in NBA playoff history. I mean, 7 rebounds, 4 blocks, was all over the floor. If you watch this game, his imprint was all over the game, even though he didn't do a ton of scoring. He had a couple shots right at the rim, one dunk attempt that he missed, and another shot right at the rim that he missed, which he typically is great at those. A couple times where he put up a little floater when he should have just went up strong. I've been amazed by his ability to finish around the basket all season. But for some reason, in this particular game, that was not his strong suit, but he did everything else fantastic. I mean, like I said, 4 blocks, at least one of those on Embiid, maybe 2. I know at least 2 of those on Embiid I can remember right off the top of my head. He was playing great around the rim on defense, big rebounds, and plus 11 overall. That's the highest plus minus of anybody on the team. Okay. Brunson was a plus 10, and Precious Achiuwa was a plus 11. So fantastic for him. And then Bogey, guy comes in, Nick Batum. The only good thing about him is the way he spells his name. And he comes out and he dives. And listen, I get it. It's playoff basketball. You're diving for the ball. You're not necessarily diving for the guy's foot. And you can't look at that really and say like, oh, he was trying to take him out. No, you can't say that. But I do think that you have a little bit of a responsibility when you're on the floor playing with other players. The fact that, you don't want to do things that are too reckless. I was arguing with some guys on Twitter about how dirty Embiid is, and I point out the fact that in that same game, in game three, that same game that Embiid did all that dirty shit. OG at one point had a play where he fell and he could have fallen on Maxi's ankle with all of his body weight. Maxi ended up getting up a little bit gimpy. If you watch that play closely, OG as he's falling, he puts his elbow down on the court to make sure that he doesn't fall all the way on him and raises himself up and rolls off of him to make sure that he doesn't hurt him. Because that's how the New York Knicks, a class organization, how we handle and how we do things. The Sixers and those Philly trash down there, they clearly, whenever they have a chance, fall on, step on, pull down, punch, kick, whatever, whoever they can. So I know. I just think that it's unfortunate. Bogey gets in the game. It's a horrible looking injury. I mean, it made my ankle hurt when I looked at it. And it's like, yo, this guy, man, hopefully we don't lose him for the rest of the year. He was really starting to come on. His shot making is extremely important for us. And, we got Mitch already out. We got obviously our second best player, Julius, who's out and has now been out for the majority of the season. And now, if we lose this guy Bogey, it's just like I don't see who we bring in. What does that mean? More Alec Burks minutes? Like, come on, man! I don't want to see any Alec Burks in these playoffs. I really, really hope that he's okay. And we'll probably find out more about that tomorrow. With it being the playoffs, they'll probably be, unless he needs surgery, they're going to be coy with it and have him be questionable going into Game 5. That's going to be on Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern. And we'll see what the prognosis is for Bogey moving forward. Joel Embiid, I thought today was his dominant self at certain points. And then as the game went on, he wilted. I think it was a combination of he got fatigued, especially due to the fact that he's a huge person who just was out for an extended amount of time and probably doesn't have his full wind. I also think of some of him as getting fatigued was the fact that the Knicks just kept coming at him. They were challenging him at the rim more. They were double teaming him a lot more on defense, but they were doing it, I thought, with a good rhythm where it wasn't all the time and somewhat keeping him guessing. And I thought as the game went on, we were able to just make things more and more tough for him. And I also thought that some of him was just getting frustrated by the fact that, the Knicks just continue to play this level of intensity and hard all game long. Maxi had 23 points. Whenever you keep Maxi under 30, in my opinion, in this series, Philly's going to have a hard time winning. And therefore, obviously, the Knicks have a very, very good chance. Maxi was 8 of 21. We continue to throw Deuce at him sometimes, OG at him at sometimes. At the beginning of the game, it was Josh Hart guarding him exclusively, following him around the court. And he clearly, bothered him some. And especially from the second through the fourth quarter, Maxi was occasionally he would show up, but there'd be times where you'd forget this guy is on the court. And so, Knicks did a fantastic job on Maxi. Maxi was a -4 overall. Kelly Oubre, he had a good game. And Kelly Oubre, he makes me nervous because when I see motherfuckers like him start hitting threes, I'm like, shit, man, we can't have no game where Kelly Oubre just goes off and kills us. He ended up being 3 of 7 from behind the arc, had a pretty good game. And then also, when you look at it, Tobias Harris at the very beginning of the game, he started off really, really well. And it was like, damn, I don't want to really see this guy get off on us. But Tobias Harris did what he does a lot, which is shows you flashes. And then overall, he's just not that good, man. He's just not. Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris over me. I remember people used to call Tobias Harris like mellow light. Man, he's nothing. He's not even a mellow. He's got the physical attributes. He's got that similar form pull-up game, but he just doesn't have the aggressiveness. And quite often when he tries to go inside, his strength seems non-existent, and he's getting challenged at the rim and getting tossed. And then at that one point, Brunson just put him in the blender and, comes in, gets the and one, and you could see Tobias Harris. He just walked straight to the block for the free throw, just annoyed him. So he didn't want to look at anybody. He didn't want anybody looking at him. He just was like, man, this fucking guy. Brunson, as my pops always says, must be the most frustrating guy to guard and to watch play and bust your ass because you're just like this little short, big-headed motherfucker. who's not that fast and can't jump high, and we just can't stop him. And it's a joy to watch as a Knicks fan. He's quickly becoming, I mean, wow. What was he? Top five? This guy's definitely top 10. He's might be top five Knicks. And I go back to the like early '90s teams, and it's hard, But I loved his dad back in the day. Brunson, his dad was the Victory Cigar. He was the guys like him. After that, it was a guy like Scotty Brooks, or right before that, it was a guy like Scotty Brooks, where when the Knicks are winning, they're up big, and they come in the game, and it was like, yeah, let's see this guy get some minutes, and you'd always come in and play hard and shit like that. So I was a Rick Brunson guy back in the day. So now to watch his son do it is just absolutely amazing. I'm being remiss. I'm realizing as I'm looking at my notes when I was going through. Did I talk about Deuce? I think I talked about Deuce and the defense on Maxey. He played good defense on Maxey, but he's also 3 of 5 from behind the arc. And I thought that Deuce really injected some energy into us, both at a little spurt in the second quarter, and it was a spurt in, I think it was either late third quarter and the early fourth. He hit a couple threes, which obviously is important. He got fouled shooting a three. He was able to knock down 2 of the free throws. I thought Deuce just played really well tonight. He gave us that perfect little burst that we needed off the bench. And at one point they mentioned that at one point when he had 11 points, he ended up with 13. He had outscored the Philly bench 11-6. And those 6 points, at least one of them was a campaign three. Campaign is one of my least favorite players in the NBA for a variety of different reasons. He looks like a dodo bird. His form is ugly. He does those little silly dance routines. When he was with Phoenix, I was at a Phoenix Suns game and watched him do that entire dance routine. Him and Mikal Bridges, which is another reason why I don't want him on the Knicks. But that's a story for another day. But I'm watching him do that dance routine pregame, and I'm just like, I never want this guy anywhere close to my team. He's one of my least favorite players, like I said. And other than like what, who do I dislike him more than him? Joel Embiid. I hate him. I officially hate him now for the rest of my life. I will always hate him. He's the Chase Utley of basketball for me. If you're a Mets fan, you'll definitely get that reference. But Joel Embiid, talking about him, let's talk about Joel Embiid and how he felt today when he was asked about the large amount of Knicks fans at Wells Fargo Arena. Disappointing. I love our fans. Think it's unfortunate, and I'm not calling them out, but it is disappointing. Obviously, you got a lot of Knicks fans, and they're down the road, and I've never seen it, and I've been here for 10 years. Yeah, kind of pisses me off, especially because Philly is considered a sports town. They've always showed up, and I don't think that should happen. Yeah, it's not okay. Yo, yo. What an inflammatory statement by Joel Embiid. Listen, I understand how he feels. It was Nick South down there. You could hear it coming through the TV. I had some people at the game. They were letting me know. They were telling me what was going on. And whenever we play Philly, especially these last few years that we've been, good with some level of consistency, you hear a whole lot of Nick noise in Philly. And I thought it was funny today. They kept talking about all the Nick noise due to the proximity, just a trip down the turnpike or down the Amtrak. And the thing that they didn't talk about was the fact that that trip is equidistant. It goes both ways, but there's no Philly noise in the Garden. Okay. We're not giving up our seats, and you can't afford the seats in the Garden. Okay. I know some Knick people today that they went down to that game specifically because it was so cost prohibitive to get into the Garden. And down in Philly, I'm sure that I am sure. I was told last game that there was some tickets for $30, which you're not getting anywhere close to that in MSG for any sort of playoff game. So I understand why Joel feels that way, but there's some shit that he says in here that's kind of bullshit. When he says, I think it's unfortunate, and I'm not calling them out, but it's disappointing. Yes, you are calling them out. That's exactly what you're doing. What are we talking about? You're calling them out. That's exactly what you're doing, Joel. And he says, I've been here 10 years. Yeah, it pisses me off, especially because Philly is considered a sports town. Considered. Okay, so what's going to happen here is we're going to go ahead and gentlemen sweep them on Tuesday in the Garden. They're broken. And Joel's going to try to push his way out in this offseason. And just as long as he stays away, because we don't want him here. I don't want him here. Too much injury history. especially with the bullshit, cheap ass shit he's done in this playoffs. I don't want to see him. I don't want him anywhere close to being on the Knicks roster. I'll take Julius over him 7 out of 7 days and twice on Sunday. Okay. And he's gonna want to make his exit. And this type of shit right here, yo, they're not the game. I don't think the series is gonna get back to Philly. But if it did, it would be interesting to see how the Philly crowd reacted to him, how he reacted to the Philly crowd, and then if they were able or they would try to be able to get more Philly people in there, more Sixers fans. They were showing all the Philly legends, and I guess Dawn Staley is a big Sixers fan, and obviously she's huge in the basketball world, so they kept showing her. They didn't show her at all in the fourth quarter. They couldn't stop showing her in the first 3 quarters. She's yucking it up, having a good time. When the Knicks started coming back and the Knicks started busting their ass, pause, they weren't showing Dawn Staley anymore. Okay? And I just thought, man, this Knicks team, we came out, we got it done. We won a huge game on the road in the playoffs. We go up 3-1, and now we have a huge advantage and a huge possibility and chance here to be able to go into this next game and say, you know what? Let's take care of business. Let's put them out early. Okay. Let's get to them early and let's not have a tough start to the game, which it seems like has been a bugaboo for this team a majority of the season. A lot of bad first quarters, a lot of bad starts to third quarters, and both of those things happen in today's game. So if we can come out early and we can get them down where all of a sudden they are feeling a little bit tight, they're going to start. Then you got to watch out because they're going to start trying to do some dirty shit. Kyle Lowry today, so crafty, so crafty, so crafty. Also seems like he enjoys, Kraft cheese products. He's got the, Nicki Minaj thighs, and he's a bit of a thickums. But he even at that charge that he drew on OG late to be able to get the away from the play foul. It's just he knows what to do. You got to be looking out for guys like him. You got to be looking out for Oubre and Embiid starting to do dirty shit when we come out next game and we get the early lead and we start putting it to these cats. And that's what I think is going to happen. I said Knicks in 5. It's going to happen. We're going to get them. And we need to come out early and just totally take their hearts and make it a nice, easy laugher of a game. I want to see some Shake Milton minutes. That's what I want to see. Okay. I want it to be like that. Kendrick Perkins, one of the lieutenants of Knick Nation, after the game, he tweeted game changer plus change manager equals big body Brunson. Put them boys in a body bag today with a casual 47-piece wing dinner and dished out 10 biscuits with the W. The greatest individual performance in franchise history. Carry the hell on. Shout to Big Perk. He's always paying us mad love, always been out there talking about the greatness of Tibbs, talking about the greatness of Brunson, and talking about the grit of this Knicks team. This has been Nick on Knicks. Game 5 will be Tuesday at 7 Eastern in MSG. Knicks look to close out the series and move on to the second round for the second consecutive year. Please please subscribe. Like I said, after the game, it won't be right after the game, but after the game, next morning, after a Knicks win or a Knicks loss, real quick, come get it in with your boy, and we can relive it together. Peace.